Hello everybody, I'm Alexey the AI Community Architect at Neo4j, and here we're on location at Linux Foundation Member Summit with Eze Lanza, who is the open source developer advocate at Intel.
Hi Alexey, how are you?
All right, it's very good to finally meet you in person and have conversations about all the good things.
In a great place.
In a wonderful place, yes.
Yeah.
So tell us what you do at LFAI, what you do in DevRel, give us the whole story.
Yeah, sure. My actual role is I do evangelism, so I mainly AI and open source. So everything that is related with Intel and open source and AI, I'm mainly the person like evangelizing that, internally and externally. Right?
Yes.
So I mainly work for OPEA, which is one of the open source projects that Intel donated to the Linux Foundation. So I'm mainly creating blogs, content, videos, I mean, all the things related with that role. Right. Conferences, talks, and so on. And I also have a role on the LFAI and data. I'm a chair and also board of the TAC. And I took that role probably 2 months ago, 1 month ago. But that's mainly what I'm also doing. So I'm really doing both things at the same time. But I really enjoy doing that.
And also, I've seen you at the AI Alliance.
AI Alliance too, so, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Intel is a member, one of the co-founders of AI Alliance when I was at IBM, and I brought in Neo4j, and now I'm representing Neo4j and Focus. And it's good to see you basically in all these community forums.
Yes. I mean, you mentioned the AI Alliance. Yes, we also most are representing that in the group, but it is the Tools group, which is more related with what I do. I mean, we started to meet each other in the AI Alliance.
That's right. So tell me a little bit, what's the vision for OPEA, right? It's like, what does Intel want to do in open source? What's the most fun things for you in that space?
Yeah, I mean, OPEA, it tends to be a project that solves the problems when you are deploying any applications. Because every time we are working with AI, we start playing with something in a Jupyter notebook or in a script and so on, which is great to prototype, but actually once we start moving that to production, we need to worry about cloud native, microservices, containers, scalability, and so on. So OPEA aims to be the project that gives you the framework, gives you the blueprints, and gives you the components for you to deploy your Gen AI application. Right? So it's how you build all of those components. And that's actually pretty good because that project started as an Intel project research. So Intel is very active in all the foundations and open source. It's a very open source. We have tons of maintainers on PyTorch and Linux. And Intel is very committed with the open source because, first of all, it's a great enabler. Because if you like to make your software to run better in your hardware, the only option is to be in the conversation and to propose something to people to actually use your hardware at the end of the day, right? So this is why it's mainly so important for Intel. And OPEA is right in the middle, right? Even if OPEA is an open source project that can run on NVIDIA and AMD or in others, it can also run on Intel. So for the Intel particular part is Intel provides the optimization for the LLMs.
Right.
They provide the optimization for the similarity search.
Right.
But within the project, you can do whatever you want.
Right. And it's an open source ecosystem, so you can plug and play with different components.
You can plug and play, you can contribute to.
Yes.
Actually, if someone would like to contribute, it's open to contributions. We like to be a maintainer, it's open to that. So it's pretty open. So if you're talking about what is the most interesting part and so on, I think that agents, it's like the evolution of the RAG. For us, I mean, I've been in AI for 10 years working with machine learning before ChatGPT, right? So an old guy on that. And I see that agents is like the evolution of RAG. We started with LLMs, okay, now we need to provide the context, we created RAG, and now we need to make them to talk to the world, and we created agents.
Right. No, this is great. What I really like about agents basically connect us to software engineering because they were this actor frameworks, agent frameworks, right? So the new kids on the block are rediscovering this. If you've been doing software engineering for a decade, you know, right? There are this, high performance architectures, which are usually microservices, right? Which call things out. And I think now it's important, right? We share and we teach folks how to do this with best practices, right? Because I think if people do AI in a notebook, right, it's not easy for them to just like spin up a production service.
It's not. And that's actually a challenge that I've seen all the time when I'm in these conferences or in AI conferences. The messaging from microservices is something that most people don't have it, like the AI people, the AI developers, AI engineers, they don't have this concept very in their roots. Like they say, yes, I can make it work. Kubernetes or cloud native and so on, it's not my problem. It's the architectural problem. So pick what I did and do it in your environment.
That's right.
It's not like that. So trying to teach them, hey, it can also be helpful for you.
Right.
You can train your model, if you like to train your LLM or whatever, build a container.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because, before even deep learning, we had this data scientists, right? And the model was, I call it the prima donna model of data scientists, right? The data scientist is the prima donna who does little prototypes, maybe in Python, and then they throw things over the fence to a Java guy. And the Java guy is cursing, trying to build it in Java, maybe like getting it wrong, right? The data scientists have no idea whether the Java is correct or not. The Java guy doesn't know if it matches his Python, right? I mean, it's probably very similar to what's happening now.
I think it's the same.
Right?
Yes,
I mean, plus we have AI copilots in the mix, so nobody knows anymore what they're writing.
Oh yes, absolutely. But we trust in them, right?
We trust them. We want it to be better.
Yeah.
Right? But like, to me, even when people are talking about like microservices, are they still relevant? I think they're actually even more relevant because, sure, your copilot can like refactor your code base for a service, but what if the other team is doing something completely different? Like the main value of microservices is the decoupling development, right? To different teams, to different people, and like AI is not going to solve the problem how you structure your company, right? How do you build an engineering team?
Yeah, and that's something that it takes a while, like the evangelism part, even for the cloud native or for the CNCF, it takes a while to really make to understand, like, you should start, and yesterday was a great call, and in the keynote, that they wanted to explain what is the right moment to start in building these microservices. So some people, some companies, we start building your application, monolithic and so on, and once you realize 2 years after that, hey, I should probably use microservices because I need to decouple, have different chains and so on. And they say, now I have to rebuild my entire application from scratch. So that's a problem. So trying to use or try to force or to say, hey, this is the best path in 5 years, start now. Why should I start thinking of microservices now once you are creating your application? Right?
That's right.
Same for LLM, same for the models, same for the AI. But I think that's something that we'll be seeing probably in the next years.
It's interesting you mentioned this. So it was Ben Hinman, who is the creator of Mesos.
Exactly.
And I know Ben forever, so we recorded an interview with him before.
Nice.
So guys, if you're looking at this at FikaAI channel, check out Ben's interview as well. Ben is the guy who brings microservices to the masses, right? And he, I think, has a good way to do it.
It wasn't planned. I mean,
it was planned. This is all very natural, made in nature, right? Organically. This is great. So tech, right? Like, I think it's super important. We are both members of LFAI, and Linux Foundation is the top open source foundation in the world. So we believe that LFAI should be the top AI open source foundation in the world. We are basically new people, new kids on the block, right? We're here to advance it with the best practices in open source. So what is your vision for tech as the chair? Where do you want LFAI to go? What kind of projects you want to see? If you are a member company, if you're planning a membership, like, what would you advise to people who want to bring their projects to LFAI to get them through tech as an approved and accepted project?
I think that the Linux Foundation has a great benefit, which is not only AI. It's not only one thing. So in the LFAI and on the Linux Foundation, you have the CNCF, you have the decentralized, you have multiple organizations with multiple projects. So being part of being in the LF, you have this advantage, like, hey, I have something in AI, but I also would like to integrate with something in CNCF. And you can work with that community, because one of the main benefits, and I think that some of the goals of this is to try to put the LF or try to make relevant for the people or for the developers that they would like to create something, or they would like to be part, or they would like to create an application. Go here, see all these projects that you have available, try to use them, try to pick them, and try to be, I think that's more engagement with developers, with the real people that is actually using those applications and those solutions. So I think that that's one of the great benefits of the Linux Foundation. And in terms of tech, I think that there's too much noise today with AI. And even AI, data science, agents, LLM, so on. we see that there's tons of people creating great things, right? But they are very siloed. So we have multiple people doing different things and so on. So try to be like the place where people can centralize and say, let's try to be all together and try to see agents. Okay, we need a protocol. This is the protocol, the MCP.
Right.
Let's try to find something similar or something for a different thing.
Yep.
To set like this is the north.
Yes.
And I think that the only way to set the north is having people involved.
Yes.
And this is why you have in the Linux Foundation. You are from Neo4j, I'm from Intel, we have AMD, we have tons of companies that are participating, and we all want to be part. So, and same for the community, right? So I think that this is one of the main goals that we have for this year, to try to be more involved on the communities, and also to start to focus on what we are going to be doing. So the trend is agent, the trend is graph racks, that's the trend. So why are you going to promote something that no one will be using, the community is not using, and also the feedback that you have from the developers. It's like, hey, why I need to use this if I have, I don't know, LangChain, right?
That's right.
So it's mainly to try to be more closer to the developers.
Yes, no, I love this. And, we talked before, so at Neo4j and with our partners, LangChain, LlamaIndex, Zilis, we are doing this framework called OAKS, which is Open Agent Knowledge Stack, right? And so we talked about like what would make it a good project for Tuck, and you gave me very good advice, which I would share, with others. Like, make sure that your project works with other projects in LFAI, right? Because really this is an ecosystem, and open source is beautiful because you can pick and choose. You can pick components, right? And OPEA operates the same way. You can pick different parts and combine them. So we have good projects in LFAI. We just added, Dockling and BAI from IBM, for instance, right? Like, you need parser. Here's your PDF parser, which extracts structure, right? Which gives you the knowledge kind of about the document. So think of like, if you want to do that, like, look at that and integrate it. And if your project already integrates with a bunch of LFAI projects, I think it increases the probability it's going to be a useful project.
And you cannot do it alone. I mean, you can do it, but it would take years to do something alone.
Yes.
So why not be together, try to find your specialist on graph. Okay, I will not be creating something on graph because I have no idea. So I have companies that has the expertise on that.
Yes.
And same for all the things, IBM with research. So we need to rely in each other and to try to find the best examples or the best use cases.
Right.
So it's
absolutely. And another thing you said, like, let's be closer to developers, right? And so if you look at the members of LFAI, have some top companies, right? Top companies in the world. If you look here, you have maybe 5 of them here, right? Yeah. So, and like people like you and me, we are going to LF events, right? We are being in this member meetings, open source summits, right?
Put your hands. We put our hands in the code. So we love to be there.
Right. So, what would you like advise, other member companies in order to be most effective with developers? Like, how should they structure their DevRel work to be more among the developers to get the most impact from things like LFAI?
Yeah, I think that this is a great question, and it's something that I always try to talk when I talk to companies and so on. And from this role, from this perspective, is if you like to talk to the developers, or if you like to create your DevRel, you need to, first of all, it sounds obvious, but actually it's not. You need to start thinking on the developer. I mean, what are the pains that they have? What are the problems that they like to solve? Which platforms are they using, and so on, and try to be with them and try to find them solutions. What I see most of the time when we are doing DevRel is you see companies, or we try to sell the product before, or we try to force the product and say, this is your problem, you can use my tool is great, and so on. Well, probably it is, but the community developer, and you also know that, when you try to pitch something, or when you say, use my product, no one trusts on you. Right? So the first thing is to create this trust, which is at the beginning, or probably all the time, is not talking about the product. So talk about how you create an agent. Yes, I can help you to create an agent. This is the toolkit that I can give you, and so on. You can use my tool, you can use other tool, whatever. This is the open source mindset. But actually, when you go to the DevRel, and same with us. I mean, you don't want to see a talk when it's a sales pitch that is forcing you to use something. So I think if I have to give an advice, the first is to put in the developer shoes and start talking less about your product.
Yes.
Talk about the technology.
Yes.
Talk about solve the problem that you are solving.
Yes.
How it helps, and try to make it easy for the developers. if we go there and if we would like to, even we as a developer, I like to create an agent. I will use what is easier for me to do it.
Yes.
So if it's easier, try to think in their minds. One important thing is also when we talk about DevRel is we always think that, hey, I don't have to explain what an agent is. But actually, yes, you have to explain.
Oh, yes.
So
oh, yes.
you have to explain how it is used,
Yes.
why it is important. We cannot think that the developers have the same knowledge that we have.
Yes.
Because we don't have the same knowledge that they have, and we cannot imagine that. So
They know their problem domain, right? And like they have more, but we know a lot of tools.
exactly.
Yeah. Now this is, and first of all, it's easy for you to say because your name is Easy, so you make it easy, right? That's just a pun. Pardon the pun. But you know, like you said, I was in multiple roles before, and so I'm CS guy, right? Has computer science education. So I think, okay, like I'm now in FikaAI. I'm gonna go to all the CI conferences. I'm gonna talk AI. What if people ask me something very, very hard, right? I'm not an OpenAI level researcher, right? Like, how I'm gonna answer this? So I go to the booth and people come and say, what's the graph? They think graph is a chart, right? So
Exactly.
right? So it's like you think microservices is kind of, everybody knows about microservices. No, right?
no,
it's
it's not.
especially the new kind of class of AI developers, AI engineers.
Yeah,
right?
you have to teach them. You have to, even the most basic things that we have, even if you do research or if you are working with something, you've been working on that for months. So you know the very, very detail. But this is your brain, this is our brain, this is not how people or how the developers actually think. So explaining the basic things, which for us is basic.
Right.
If I need to explain what is an agent for my grandmother or my mom, that would be very difficult.
It'll be a long
It would
conversation.
It would take a long time.
Yes.
But it's the same thing. And the language.
Yes.
I hate when I see content that is a very, very low level.
Yes.
Right? And it has to be easy to understand.
No,
And not because you are doing that, you are saying that you are not smart, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you are actually helping them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think storytelling, right? Storytelling is
Exactly.
important. And what I found, right, like people who go deep very quickly, they lose the audience, right? They lose me. And like if somebody is making something very clear, you come back from this talk and you feel happy.
You have it in your mind.
Yeah, you learn something. So somebody said never underestimate the power of understanding.
Exactly.
Right? So like bring understanding. Right,
Yeah.
bring understanding to people, and I think like in LFAI we should really all think like, okay, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to create ChatGPT, right? We need to take open source models and we need to see what open source ecosystem exists around them, and we need to explain to developers how do I build my Gen AI app, right? Because they don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and this all holistic view, like we had 10 companies working. I mean, there's nothing is forcing like to use OpenAI. Or
Yes.
you can use whatever you want, but having this mindset, like these are the options. None is better. One's better than another in some scenarios or whatever. But these are the options.
Yes.
You can pick whatever you want.
Yes, and kind of in closing, I think you guys can really take advantage of it. If you're a small startup, we have a program for startups. A startup can join for free for 1 year.
Oh, cool.
And you can, so I just talked to Todd, who are amazing, interim executive director, used to be SVP of open source at IBM, now SVP of community operations at LF, right? And so we work with a bunch of startups, in FikaAI, and the Oaks kind of coalition has a bunch of startups. So I asked Todd, like, what's a good way to engage them? And apparently we have this set up where as a startup you can join for a year. So you can join the tech, you can join, you can come to the meetings, you can join the community, and you can think of how can you take your open source project and bring it to LFAI if it has multiple companies contributing, active community, like works with other projects, right? And so that way, like rising tide lifts all the boats. If you build a project like this and you talk about the ecosystem, you talk about solving problems, right? That will, your sales will actually go up without saying,
exactly.
right? If you focus on how do you increase the impact in the ecosystem, we welcome you. So come talk to folks, come to me, come talk to Eze, come to anybody Linux Foundation, and consider joining us. All right.
All right.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so much.